We do continue with Monday Mornings NTV. Now, as we do continue, it's time for our Kickstarter, turning our heads to every lens and every camera being focused to Omoro County right now. In 10 days, they go to the polls once again in a by-election so that they can have the vacant seat that was left by the demise of Jacob Olan in March be refilled once again so that that place can also have representation. My name is Priscilla Regina Naloga, and here in our Kickstarter, what is at stake in Omoro County as we do gear up for that? Of course, nominations are done and dusted. We do have 6 candidates vetted and verified by the Electoral Commission, and now the rest begins. Who gets to convince the people of Omoro that he's the best candidate? But then again, the reverse should also be true. The people of Omoro County, what do they want and what do they need at such a time as this, and who's the candidate that can satisfy those needs for them? Here to have these conversations with me is the National Unity Platform spokesperson, Deputy Alex Mufumbiro. Good morning to you, Alex.
Good morning, Priscilla.
How are you?
I'm very great.
Must have been a tough weekend for you going through that nomination process.
Well, the party is having a lot of activities. Our First Lady was in London on a girl empowerment and women emancipation program. It's the biggest women conference I think we have had. Over 400 Ugandans stand up for that, and she put up quite a very powerful but expected presentation, and I wish to thank them for that. We had a retreat of our flag bearers, those that held our flag, but many of them were never declared. And of course, others had certain weaknesses. So we had a re-evaluation of that in Ginger Nile Resort. This very weekend also we had a retreat of the foot soldiers, those who are at the helm of leadership, those who are mobilizing the grassroots, those who did not stand. And we had a beautiful one, over 2,000 of them at Usabala. So it has been a busy week, and then also our candidate was successfully nominated. Of course, he is not only our candidate, he's the candidate of the people of Omoro, and is the people power candidate. Okay,
all right. Simon Tolito Akecha is going to be holding the National Unity Platform card on that race. We also are going to be joined in this conversation by a representative from the ruling party, NRM, and that's the spokesperson, Mr. Emmanuel Dombo. Good morning to you, Emmanuel Dombo.
Good morning to you, Priscilla, and good morning, our listeners.
So I'll start with you. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Mufumbiro too.
Good morning, Mr. Dombo.
Okay, so Mr. Dombo, I'll start with you as the ruling party spokesperson. We want to find out from your angle what is exactly at stake in Omoro County ahead of the 10 days.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. And I want to inform you and our listeners that really a lot is at stake in Omoro, because this was a position occupied by
Okay, all right. As we do get back to Manuel Dombo there, back to you, Mr. Alex Waiswa. What is at stake for the National Unity Platform, and why do you want a piece of the pie in Omoro County?
First of all, for us, it is truth-telling. We are going to, it is a very big opportunity for Uganda that we show what we have been speaking about, the abject poverty, the deceit that has been hidden for a very long time. I don't know whether Honorable Dombo is in Omoro, but the internet is not very beautiful in Omoro, not that it is beautiful here in Kampala. That speaks of how much these people have been cheated. If you look at Omoro is geographically located in the area of the northern region, and the area of the northern region for the first about 20 years of the Museveni regime, there was conflict of Joseph Kony. But after that, there has been a lot of funds that have been allocated to those areas for development under the scheme of the post-reconciliation development, the post-conflict reconciliation development program. I think that is the program. And many of those other programs, Mr. Deep, now they have DEG, there are a lot of social reconciliation program, development programs, health programs that are supposed to have after they were affected with the nodding disease. But Priscilla, if you put the camera on ground with what is in Laloji, with what is in Omoro, with the entire area, you look at how much money has been cheated of these people. You look at even
Have
the
you
budget
done an
itself.
evaluation of how much this money is?
Priscilla, the PRDP is in phase 3. These are billions of money. I'm talking about, in fact, trillions of money. But it is not, there is nowhere on ground you're going to see this money. The people are living in abject poverty. They do not have water. If you look at their demands, from all that time, I've given you all those funds that they're supposed to be receiving. The war claimants have not been compensated. And billions of that money has been passed. The people of Omoro have the old Moroto Road. They have desired for a very long time that it is upgraded to tarmac. It has not been done. They do not have tarmac. The standard of living, the standard of living of the people, they are still demanding for the basics of borehole water.
Okay.
I mean, we are a country that is surrounded with water. Uganda should have at least an opportunity for all those to access clean water.
Okay.
They don't have clean water.
All right, Alex.
They don't have roads. They do not have schools. And they don't even have their power.
All right, so basically the basic needs of any area code, you've talked about road infrastructure, health as well as education, is still on the low.
And shelter.
And wanting in the area code of Omoro County. Now, away from that, what makes Simon Tolit the best considerable candidate to actually represent these people and within the remaining time frame actually be able to answer to these pleas of people of Omoro County?
Simon Tolit is an experienced legislator. First of all, he's an astute fellow in economics. I can tell you that he was a commissioner at the Uganda Revenue Authority. He has participated in the reconciliation program of the people of Northern Region. I can tell you,
which has been successfully failing.
That no. He is the reason why there is peace there. The reason he's on clutches is because he was involved in an accident as he was going to have negotiations with Joseph Kony, because he's an OB of Joseph Kony, and he's among the elders who moved to Garamba to convince Joseph Kony to put up arms. And Joseph Kony, at least with what is on ground, fulfilled his end of the bargain. Now, this is the Simon Tolit Akecha. Simon Tolit Akecha trounced Jacob Olanya in 2006-2011 with over 8,000 votes. The rest of these other elections, he has been cheated out. You remember, this is the guy in 2016, if you are alive and following, I believe you are, the guy who was never declared, and Olanya was, the late Jacob Olanya was declared without results. He's a darling of that constituency. His program of health, he is the first member of parliament in Northern Region, when he was still in parliament, who bought them an ambulance because he saw the dire need, at least the basics of health. So this is an elder, he is an informed person. He has suffered for the people of Northern Region. He was in jail for over 1.5 years in Luzira prison simply because of his dissenting views against the regime. So he's a solid fellow. He's a solid fellow. But most importantly, he's a people power candidate under the National Unity Platform. That alone puts him to be the best. All
right, back to Mr. Emmanuel Dombo, if he's still with us, spokesperson for NRM. You are still giving us what is in stake for Omoro County as NRM.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. I was informing you that if this was a football match, the player who is going to be substituted has been the player for the national resistance movement. Already, the national resistance and a lot of activity is going on. So in the circumstances like this shouldn't be a very difficult election. And when I respond to my brother, Mr. Mfumbiro, Mr. Tolit was in parliament before, and I know his abilities and capabilities. He even tried contesting as chairman LC5 and he lost. Even then, he was not contesting as a Nupu candidate. He tried all the other parties and they disregarded him. He became an independent and contested for LC5 and he lost. So if he lost in the parliamentary, was he cheated in parliamentary? Was he also cheated in was he cheated in you know that there is any membership
seemingly having all right, Butalejo is having network issues there.
Now, that is the spokesperson of a government that is taxing Ugandans the internet, but they cannot provide even the minimum sufficient internet for them, the leaders, to be able to transmit information that is now, really.
Okay, away from that, this conversation is not about the internet. It's about Omoro County.
And
Alex, as we move on, we want to hear from the National Unity Platform in terms of how NRM has actually handled their candidacy. Of course, having given it to Ojok, who is the son of the late Jacob Olanya, succession, and then representation on the NRM ticket for the rest that is in 10 days. What is your view on this kind of leadership that is just handed over just like that?
The law of succession gives any would-be here opportunity to argue for what is theirs. And I can tell you that Omoro is not part of the late Jacob Olanya's property. So it is not true that we can even discuss about that as succession, because they are only supposed to maybe talk about that unfinished hotel and other properties, not the constituency. Well, it is his also constitutional right to present himself as a candidate and be decided upon, and that is their right. However, we all know that 20 million shillings was given to those other candidates who desired to stand. Others were convinced and promised jobs. There is a lot of animosity within about the candidate. He's a novice about even the geography of Omoro. He does not even know the constituency. As
once upon a time, you were also a novice in politics, but over time and exposure, you got to learn, and here you are today. You're a deputy spokesperson. So we have to cut him some slack.
5 years ago, I was a deputy spokesperson still. And that
10 years ago?
10 years ago, I was a former guild president.
15 years ago?
My age gives me only duty to serve at that.
Okay,
I've been around and at this. So, when you look at the candidate, and I'm giving you the facts on ground. He is not hugely appreciated, and Northern Region has a style, and especially in Omoro, they want that level of reply to be elderly. Just like you see what happened in Arua with the death of Abiriga. The replacement was Honorable Cassiano Wadri, a bit an elder, one they believe can go and stand for those very values. But then also, beyond the individual, there is nothing to appreciate the people with the symbol of the bus for the people of Omoro. There's nothing in Omoro. Omoro is in abject poverty. Okay. They have desired, I have told you that if you look at the funds that have been released for Northern Region, it would be a total lie for anybody. I've told you PRDP is on phase 3, but it would be a total lie to find any footprint of even $1 billion shillings on ground. So speaking of Omoro, footprints,
as a National Unity Platform, what footprints are you expectedly going to be doing in terms of programs to actually change the stance of abject poverty that you're talking about?
Well, as you are aware, we want, first of all, to make sure that the people of Omoro regain their power, because if they are powerless, there's nothing that they will reach upon. So our first clarion call to the people of Omoro is to regain their power. We are going to sensitize them on how to regain their power, but also we want to use this opportunity to remobilize Northern Region. If they tell you that General Salim Saleh was there with the programs of a Myoga, there's no Myoga anywhere as footprint on the ground. So we are going there to sensitize them, to empower them, to regain their power, which is very important, but also there were rumors, and the doubting Thomases always castigated us to be a group that is only found in Central Region, that we do not have support in Northern Region. Give it time, you're going to see the support that we have in Northern Region with our candidate. He's already leading the race because he is in the National Unity platform. So we are also going to show our might as people power, because the struggle there, the stakes are people power versus the people in power. Okay. You know, we also want to show Ugandans that we won Northern Region despite the existence of General Saleh and whatever they did during the most murderous election of January 14th. So it is also a tussle out for the dictator. We want to show the dictator that he is not needed anywhere, and at any time his overthrow is sooner than later. So the stakes there are for the National Unity Platform, one, to mobilize Northern Region and liberate it from the mindset that has for a long time been castigated by the existentiality of the General Salehs, but also, most importantly, to liberate the people of Omoro and deliver the candidate they have always preferred to be their #1 choice in the previous elections. Honorable Dombo is experienced enough to distinguish what they call local government and parliamentary elections. These are two different things, and I have not been here to say that we have enrolled him for LC5. We are here for member of parliament, and we are a magnanimous political party. I can assure you, if he has been rejected by others, he's already telling you the stakes are high. Let's count down. It's show time. All right.
We do have Dombo back online. Mr. Dombo, back to you. As you were telling us about the stake that is in Omoro for NRM, Waiswa here and the National Unity Platform are saying that there's no evidence of NRM ruling and existing in Omoro. They're saying there's poor road infrastructure, the education infrastructure is terrible. Just basically, the basic needs of livelihood in Omoro County are not the expected under the 35 years that NRM has been under leadership.
Priscilla, we are talking about an area which has been under IDPs for over 20 years. And there has been an insurgency taking place. We are not talking about Kampala, where people were liberated, where Bobby Wine was able to move from the ghetto and he went to Magere because of the freedoms that NRM brought to Kampala. We are talking about an area where there has been a war and people have been in IDPs until the National Resistance Movement fought and defeated backward politics in order to ensure that the people of Northern Uganda attain peace and they can go back to their respective areas and then begin doing the farming. In the circumstances like this, you cannot expect Omoro to be like Butaleja, which has been more peaceful, or an area which has been stable ever since NRM came to power. Omoro has only seen peace for the last about 15 years.
Mr. Dombo, those 15 years are enough for you to create a stance that can actually have the people of Omoro trust NRM in such a time as this in the by-election upcoming?
Absolutely, yes. In the 15 years, Omoro was created as a district. It never existed. In the 15 years, Omoro has got motorable roads, although they are not tarmac. That gentleman knows very well that when they are going to all sub-counties, there is no area of Omoro that is not accessible by motorable means. When you look at the schools are better and the health centers are on the roads. The only thing the people of Omoro are asking for, they want the district health center of Lalogi upgraded to for the hospital state, district referral. And they also want the health center 3 upgraded to the health center for the one in Tochi. Those are the things the people of Omoro are asking for. But the schools are effective. The water coverage is very high. Many areas have piped water. And then The rural electrification has covered most of the trading centers, apart from Odek, where we were the other day for the main rally, and that's one of the areas where Andrew is going to begin delivering. The northern Uganda is transforming.
If he's elected,
their productivity capacity has gone up because in Omoro is one of the leading producers of soybeans in the country. And last year, the price for soybean was 4,000. This year, they expect it may be 5,000 and above, and people have really planted. The only thing they need now is post-harvest handling, which has been a challenge to them because most of them don't have storage. So that gentleman, Mr. Waiswa, is talking about an area where the national resistance movement is already working. You go to the local governments. How many district councillors of NUP are there? You go to the chairman LC5. How many NUP candidates made it even to that level? So by them borrowing Tolit from FDC, trying to want to rely on Tolit's previous popularity when he was in parliament, progressively people are changing.
Mr. Dombo, you bring about the conversation of popularity. The Andrew Jock flag bearer for NRM is not popular anywhere in Omoro except for the fact that he's the son of the late. And how does that benefit you getting into this race?
The first thing for Andrew is that he's a very young man who has made a very serious appeal to the very young people. Mufumiro has been talking about the generation politics. The young people who are now beginning the young transitional politics are excited to look at Andrew. Secondly, Andrew has been a public servant. Andrew has been working with the national organization for over 10 years. He's a family man who is married and wedded and he has a family. We are not talking about a boy out of school. We have had many people coming out of school and making it parliament, like Honorable Donga Oto, Honorable Nankabirwa, and many of them have performed excellently well. How about Andrew, who has been a public servant and a senior public servant to that level, joining police now? Can assure you that the people of Omoro are excited. There have been challenges about others wanting to bring sectarian politics within the people of Omoro, but the people have rejected it, and they are very ready, because the massive rallies that people turned up after nominations when we did a drive through the constituency was alone demonstrable to show that Andrew Jock is destined for victory, to reclaim that seat, and ensure that the programs of the national resistance movement continue as we were planned for in the manifesto, because it's self-defeating. The people themselves have been told.
But there are people who are worried that the only reference to political background he has is through his father, and that's not enough.
No, but first of all, the strength for Andrew is not the background politics for his father. The first strength for Andrew is that he's a flag bearer for the national resistance. But yet he was put on the
flag-bearing candidacy because he's a son of the late.
He's the son of the late. He will ride on the previous history of the father, but he's now being given an opportunity to show his own potential. In the subsequent elections, Andrew will not go back to people that I'm just a son of Elijah, but he will show the history on where he has been contributing. Because supposing he quoted what has been doing in Nila, will that be sufficient enough for him to get elected? So let's talk
about those exact contributions, because the people of Omoro County are watching right now. What are those contributions you know of?
The biggest contribution which Andrew has done previously, the people of Omoro, is to support his father, because that was the task he could manage at the time. He became a good campaigner for his father, and his father went through. Now he's going to use the same tricks and statistics and effort which he put in for his father to ensure that he also succeeds as a member of parliament. But he also becomes the responsibility of the party. Once Andrew is elected, this is not individual merit. This is party merit, organizational merit. NRM will not let down on job, and NRM will not let down the people of Omoro. NRM will work harder, and like we have taken over many areas in the northern Uganda, once we have delivered on the major things which we have pledged, like the Moroto Road, Gulu Moroto Road, even when it is not a tarmac,
Yeah.
It is very highly motorable. Yes, and I was driving on it.
Mr.
When I
Dombo.
was going to Kitugum via Pade.
Yeah.
And the road is efficient. We only need to tarmac it so that we enable the producers to enjoy the base of the infrastructure.
So, Mr. Dombo, you were seen in a convoy during the weekend of the nomination exercise for Omoro County. The car that you were driving, if you sold it off, that money can be able to do something on the roads that are in stance for that particular area code without necessarily us going through the politics of it. What do you say on this?
No, this, you know, political parties are given money to do political work by government.
And leaders have money to actually create leadership and change things in people's area codes and districts and counties. And you are.
That's why progressive Omoro wasn't the way it was. I told you that Omoro wasn't a district. Right now it has a district structure and governance. It has engineers working on the people's problems. It has health centers. It has health center 4, health center 3, and even has piped water in some selected areas.
Okay, all right.
It also has borehole water, and
which is not enough, according to our sources on ground. It's not enough to actually take care of Omoro County.
Through the time of elections. Come again?
Okay, as I get back to you, of course, we're going to be turning to Waiswa here. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Dombo. Turning to you, Waiswa. We have had the previous elections, the general elections, in which your campaign trail was suffocated ever so often by blockades. You were taken off the compelled trails. You were not allowed to campaign in the areas you had submitted you'd be campaigning in. And so we want to find out from you this time around, what's going to be your campaigning strategy and structure in the next 10 days?
First of all, for the listeners, if you've listened to Honorable Dombo, he has been affirmative to my presentation that they are struggling. The only paradox, and when you listen to him, he has failed to convince us. First of all, he says the candidate is unpopular. Then he later tells you we have jumped to him because he's popular. Let him choose where he wants to put the candidate. But I can tell him we are the National Unity Platform. We recruit, we mobilize, and we present to the public. That is who we are. We were not a deficit of candidates in Omoro. In fact, our primaries, they did not have primaries. That is Dictator Museveni's candidate, chosen in NTV. Ours is a choice that was made by the people of Omoro through our parliamentary
systems. Which choice people have been also questioning. Why?
We had. Let me finish first.
You went ahead with an FDC reject.
No, not FDC reject. We are the National Unity Platform.
Who took on an FDC reject and is now their flag bearer.
Listen, we are magnanimous. We bring in, we do not chase out. We bring in, and we bring in, everybody has weaknesses, everybody has strength. We mind about one thing, the action to fight against the dictator. This is a stable, formidable, and I can tell you, disturbing candidate to the regime. That is why you're talking about a rejectee. The FDC candidate was bought out by the state. Aren't you aware of that? They had to look for a substitute at the last minute.
We're talking about one who was kidnapped.
Whatever, but you know he didn't show up. The other candidate of the Democratic Party has had consensus with the NRA. They are now going to work together to bring Ojok. Same to that of the UPC, simply because there is a lion that we have presented.
Okay, all right.
We are anchored on people power.
Okay.
We have no right to deny anybody a right as long as the people of that area have decided that that is their choice.
So back to recruiting and now mobilizing. How are you going to mobilize? Yes,
we had Honorable Secondo in the primaries. We had Rachel. We had Mungu Brian. We had Ochora. These are all astute fellows. So we were not deficit of candidates as he proposes to the nation. We presented candidates, and in these primaries, that is how we came up with Simon Akecha. In fact, Akecha came up with 70%. turnout of the ground, and that is why the ground is shaking.
So the ground is shaking, but mobilization is also going to destabilize
now mobilization
in the next 10 years. I hope we won't be seeing tear gas simply because
no, the state has already started.
Structure. So what is that structure you're going to use this time around?
First of all, violence has already started. On nomination day, over 4 of our people were injured very badly. Others were bleeding through the faces by security forces. Work done by the RDC. Then you can imagine that the campaign in Omoro is being led by the RDC, which is also an absolute abuse of the law. But as I said, we are people power, and we know that we are going to fight people in power. What we can tell you is that we are going to step foot in Omoro. We are in Omoro. The Geno Saudas, the Noah Mutwes, the Oliechis, the team is being headed by Dr. Zedriga, the Mungu Bryans. I can tell you our destination is Omoro. And this time round, the president is also destined to be there for quite a number of days. We are trying to run the program and see how we fit in. We need this victory, but
okay,
not
so where
only
are you starting your campaign trail from?
The campaign trail program is now going to be drafted under under the guidance of the Electoral Commission, because after nomination, then they go for reconciliation and acceptance of their programs. I have seen that the dictator will be there on the 24th, but I can assure the country that the elected president of Uganda, number 10, His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi, will be in Omoro a number of days, and use this also as an opportunity to reach out and have different meetings.
How do you intend to speak to the people of Omoro while you're mobilizing them and soliciting for votes to actually stay away from violence?
We are not a violent organization.
That's not what I said. How are you going to encourage them to stay away, to be non-participant of violence?
It is our policy not to be violent. That is what I was meaning. We are not violent. So we always tell our people not to be violent, because the state has been violent to us for a very long time. They are violent to us, but our people are aware that our policy is to remain sober, is to remain in line with the values of who we are. Very disciplined, reliable, among others. So we are not a violent group, and our people, we can tell you, do not be violent, because they want to give us that face of being violent. Let us only be assertive, but not violent.
Okay, back to Mr. Dombo in Butaleja. Mr. Dombo, as we continue to have this conversation, we want to find out in the NRM race, what are the expected outcomes? What is the mobilization structure that you're going to use to win the people of Omoro County over?
Thank you very much. I want to tell you that the NRM National Resistance Movement Secretariat has been encamped in Omoro for some days in order to set up a structure. Our campaign structure is led by Honorable Catherine Lamwaka, the woman member of parliament for Omoro. She's the team leader. She's deputized by the chairman of the NRM, Mr. Kidega, and the candidate manager, the one who is managing our candidate, is the
Okay, all right. Butaleja. The internet still continues to buffer us there in Butaleja, while we do have Emmanuel Dombo, spokesperson for NRM, giving us the campaign trail. Hopefully we can have him within the next 5 minutes to have that conversation for us. But finally, Waiswa, as we are getting into these 10 very significant and instrumental days into the race on the 26th in Omoro County, what are the expectations with the National Unity Platform?
You are going to expect a very exciting campaign from us. We have our teams already on ground. It is interesting. There are 85 polling stations. Those are polling stations we can man. We are going to man them. But of course,
when you say we're going to man them, yes, what do you mean?
We are going to man them because the stealing hand is warming up to steal again, like they did in with the Nakwede case. these are the very guys who are there in Kayunga.
So how are you going to streamline that in particular?
They have actually
are you going to put in more boots on ground on those polling stations? What are you going to do?
At these polling stations, we managed, even in Kayunga, to have the results returned. We won Kayunga despite the rigging and the bribery and the thuggery of the dictatorial regime. We won Kayunga. But then they had a lady called, I'm forgetting the name, they had a lady who took on the mantle of doing the unthinkable under the leadership of Byabakama. And they declared the results that nobody up to now can tell you where they came from. But we are, as National Unity Platform, our duty will be to seed the aspects of democracy. And as I told you, for a very long time, Priscilla, many generations, as you are aware, the ideology of the NRM was a deceitful, was only a doctored ideology. They talked about modernization. I always saw many posters talking about modernization. There's no modernization in Omoro. They talked about democracy. There has not been democracy in Omoro. They talked about liberation. The people of Omoro are not liberated. So it is now the duty of the people, of people power. That is what I told you, that we are anchored on their power. And therefore, we want them to understand that the entire legacy and prosperity of Omoro lies in their hands, first of all, being liberated from the dictatorial regime. I have told you the funds that have been designed to go there. Recently, I think they got about 7 billion to build a market in one of their areas. But still, there is no trace of these monies. So the corruption, northern region, is treated as one that harbors refugees. So there are a lot of funds inclusive that have been going there, but
okay, let me return to you.
Have been running away with this money, and we are going to expose them and expose them to the entire world.
Returning to Mr. Dombo. Mr. Dombo.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Dombo. We were still talking about the campaign trail that NRM is going to apply in these 10 days.
Mr. Dombo is
our campaign trail.
His entire home.
We have already started by setting up a team, a very formidable team, like I said, led by Honorable Amwaka, Chairman LC5, Engineer Olal, Mr. Ben Achelam, and many other very strong and formidable people in Omoro. And they have been moving around doing the mobilization and structures, the youth, the women. And when you look in the population, they are already in the upbeat that within the remaining few days, they should just conclude the job in order to ensure that Honorable Andrew Joke is elected to go and serve the people of Omoro. The Unity platform has always wanted to provoke, like you saw what they did in Kayunga, you saw what they did in Kampala before the elections. But for maintenance of security, that's the responsibility of government. For us as the National Resistance Movement, we shall offer a candidate. We shall talk for him. He will also talk for himself. And then the structures will also talk for him. So that at the end of the day, we can deliver the victory that is expected. We only appeal to the people of Omoro to be calm, not to be incited by the people who want to incite, like they did in Arua and other areas, because I know Omoro is an NRM bastion, and they know it. Because although in Tochi, the neighboring constituency is represented by the Democratic Party, you can even see that even the Nupu candidate there could not make it. I don't even think they even had a candidate, because the DP is the immediate next neighbor on the other constituency of Tochi. But for the Omoro County itself, that is an NRM bastion. We are going to rely on the formidable work did by the Right Honorable Jacob Olanya, the pledges of government in the manifesto, and also the historical delivery, what the government has been able to do for the people of Northern Uganda, especially creation of peace, building of infrastructure, creation of stability. Now the biggest challenge when you look at Omoro is dealing with the issue of mindset change and poverty that has been rampant, and the instability within the weather fluctuations, because people still rely on weather for agriculture, yet the soils are fertile. If in the future government invested funds and we do irrigation, northern Uganda is soon going to become the food basket for not only Uganda, not only the East African region, but the entire Africa asset. Because once you do commercial production and we do commercial agriculture as prescribed in the NRM manifesto, then the people of Uganda and the people of Omoro are going to be okay. But for the elections, I want to tell you that we are set.
All right.
The campaign program, we had a meeting the other day, and we did the reconciliations on Saturday. Our candidates sat with all the other candidates, they reconciled the programs. We have the president of Uganda coming to Omoro on the 24th. It's going to be in 3 centers. It's going to be in Opit. It's going to be in Lalogi to lay a wreath. I also talk to the people, and he will conclude in Odek on the 24th. Okay. Let me hope that when our brothers are going to make programs, they will not want to create conflict like the way they have been doing. Because we set our program very clear and has been approved by the Electoral Commission.
Yes. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Dombo, for joining us. Well, I can say that both these gentlemen do agree that there's abject poverty in Omoro County, and also in terms of health as well as agriculture, it's still very, very below poverty line, below livelihood line, and so the expectation is that whoever wins, they have to actually pull up the socks of Omoro County. In that regard, your parting shots, Waiso?
I have heard him talk about us being violent, like in Arua. The dictator took down Yasin Kauma. Bobby Wine nearly lost his life. Zake nearly lost his infrastructure of moving. When he talked about Kampala, it was so absurd. He forgets that in Kampala, under the leadership of the late Lokech, 54 people were murdered by the dictatorial regime, and General Museveni has since taken responsibility of that, having deployed a commando unit from Somalia to descend on the citizenry. So it is very, very absurd when leaders of the national resistance movement come here on national platform and begin to malign and remind us of the impunity and anarchy that we saw in the just concluded elections.
Okay.
I did not want to take that lightly. And Mr. Dombo there, you saw, when we were in Kayunga, he said that Nakwede had not been beaten. Then General Museveni later came up and said that the SFC had mishandled the Honorable Nakwede. So to take words of Mr. Dombo will be taking words.
And this is exactly why we do have democracy, that will decide.
No, it's not democracy when people are beaten and others lie about it.
Which is definitely the candidate for
so
Omoro
we
in
want
the remaining
to ask the people of Omoro to go out and vote for Simon Tolit Akecha. He is a formidable candidate who will present your issues as you have always trusted him with your vote. This time, we have the capacity to keep that vote as your voices will speak.
Alex Waiso, Deputy Spokesperson for National Unity Platform, thank you so much for joining us. Emmanuel Dombo, NRM Spokesperson, thank you so much for your contribution to this dialogue. And now, it's open to the people of Omoro County. These 10 days are all about you being convinced, but at the end of the day, you also have to reverse it. And on Good Morning at NTV, we're going to be following up the people of Omoro. We're going to have boots on ground with our reporters, trying to find out from the people themselves what is their actual voice and what are their sentiments in this election in these preceding days. Also expected